A special welcome to the Get Down to our Butterscotch Kings and Queens. We are broadcasting live from the Democratic National Convention here in Chicago. I'm your host, Ritzy P, and I'm joined by Butterscotch Media Managing Editor, Cleve Mesidor. We've been here in Chicago for the past 2 days. This is my first convention, but Cleve, this is your fourth. So let's talk about that.
Oh my goodness, yes. My first convention was Denver. It was President Obama's first convention. It was magical. And following that second convention, because I served in the Obama administration, I was an appointee. And so the second one was Charlotte. Charlotte was amazing. Charlotte was downtown. It was central. Yeah, everything was in one place. Philly was the next one, a little chaotic. That was Hillary Clinton's convention, and we know how that ended up. But here we are in, where are we?
Chicago.
Chicago. See, we've been here for a few days, so I'm like, oh my God, it has been a whirlwind. But, you know, Chicago is amazing. What are your thoughts since we've been here?
I mean, first time in Chicago, first time at the DNC. I think there's like this palpable buzz, right? I think that also is different because of where we're at in this whole political climate right now. And still, but I'm super excited. And one thing I think we discussed earlier is I love where we're at, where we're staying. Is just a lot of Black and brown, just folks of all types here in community. And we're super excited about this.
That's the beauty of the Democratic Party, right? It's the big tent. So,
Right.
you know, there are Native communities, Latino communities, Black communities, women communities. So that is the great attraction here. And the energy, as you mentioned, is amazing.
Yeah. So yesterday we had an event. It was a briefing about data on crypto. So let's talk about that. What were your thoughts and your impressions about that?
So this was Butterscotch Media's second major event because we did an event at Consensus in Austin. And Consensus is a big blockchain conference. For convention, we felt it was important for Butterscotch to be present here during the convention. And not because of the politics, but because of the policy, right? We know that this is a pivotal time, not just for the future of Web3 and DeFi policy, but, you know, Black and Latino communities are the largest holders of cryptocurrency. Right. We have a big tent within crypto, so it makes sense for us to also be here, for policymakers to see us and understand that the issues around this technology matter to us and they need to take it more seriously.
Right. And it was great that we had Dominique Little, who is a political advisor from Paradigm there. And the data that she shared, it was pretty impressive and pretty surprising.
Yeah, Paradigm has been polling folks on their sentiments around crypto. They've been polling specifically voters around their sentiments around crypto. The first poll was in March. In July, they polled Republicans, and the Democratic poll actually, you know, they went into the field with the Democratic poll just after Biden actually stepped aside and it became Kamala Harris. So the poll is really insightful, right? It tells us what we knew, right? That the communities of color are the largest holders.
Right.
But it also told us that the largest holders, communities of color, they own more crypto than they own stocks, right? And it tells you a little bit about their motivations. But most importantly, it says that for the Democratic voter that owns crypto policy matters to them because, you know, privacy matters to them. I love that for the Kamala race, freedom, Beyonce's Freedom is their theme song. But in crypto, we know that economic freedom is very critical for why a lot of folks from marginalized groups are gravitating on this new asset class, but also this new technology.
Right. Economic freedom, economic justice. I mean, you know, I think all across the board, people are saying that this could really sway things on what policies and what positions that people are taking. So before I got to Chicago, we've been in different places. That's why we didn't know what city or what day it was, because we've been traveling and speaking all these different places. So a couple weeks ago, or a week ago, I don't know what time it is, we had an event through Hola Metaverso Alchemia, And we had Black, brown people in the space.
Hola Metaverso, this conference, it was called Alchemy, right?
Yes, Alchemy,
And it was focused on innovation.
Yes, AI, data security, cybersecurity. We had folks from Google that do cybersecurity, people from TikTok that do US data security. And then we had a panel on blockchain, and we had people, Liz Barzuto from Consensus, and we had all different types of people. It was a great turnout. We had it at Sandbox offices, which are big in blockchain gaming. And so that was great. And then right after, I went into VCon, and I was a speaker there on a panel about social impact
What
and
is
emerging tech.
VCon? Not everyone in the audience may know what that is.
So VCon is Gary Vaynerchuk's big conference. And this is, he was going to roll out 3 of them. So this is the 3rd installment. They were in like Indianapolis and Minneapolis before, and this was first time here in Los Angeles. And it basically is the intersection of leaders in culture, tech, entrepreneurship, all the different things. He also has a wellness block, but a big Web3 presence, emerging tech presence. So that was great that we were on a panel. I was on a panel with Carrie, who brought 60 at-risk Black and brown youth to the convention to meet Gary Vee and have workshops. We had Afakazi, who is about mental health awareness and stuff for the Black community, the Black male community. Yeah, and so we had great conversations, and it was super hot, but it was a great springboard to come into this event, to continue the conversations that you and I are so passionate about.
Oh, wow. So from the Alchemy Conference to VCon and now the DNC. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. And Cleve, you're just coming from Martha's Vineyard. Tell us what happened there.
Oh, my goodness. So we were just in Martha's Vineyard. Every August, Black leaders from across culture, politics, music, film gather at the Inkwell on Martha's Vineyard. And there's a special 2-week period where elected officials, policymakers from across the country gather. I partner with Tiffany Smith, who's a partner at the law firm Wilmer Hale. And yes, last year we hosted the first retreat. It was a retreat of Black leaders in crypto, because since we have a captive audience with all of the Black Caucus members, Black mayors, on the island, we want them to see that crypto is part of the conversation so they can interact with Black executives, Black founders in the space. So last year was so amazing. And this past week, we were in Martha's Vineyard for the 2nd annual retreat. And we were so happy to have Congresswoman Kamlaga Dove speak. We had CFTC Commissioner Kristen Johnson speak, as well as a whole bunch of different leaders. So it was amazing. But I went from DC straight to Martha's Vineyard and straight here to Chicago. So it's been a whirlwind, but very exciting, because at the intersection of all of these things is crypto policy, because decentralization for us is important, because that's where we can have financial inclusion and capital formation. But we need the right policies and rules to ensure that inclusion, capital formation are part of the legislative proposals.
Right. Talking about tech policy, let's talk about the Opportunity Economy Plan by Harris-Wolff.
Yeah. So just last week, they announced, this economic agenda, the opportunity economy. And so it's interesting. We're getting more details. But for me, I'm very interested in learning more about what is that intersection with innovation, right? If we're talking about an opportunity economy, it tells me that, we want more people to participate, right? We're talking about entrepreneurship and small business. And we know the intersection of blockchain and cryptocurrency with these things, whether it be payment systems, digital payment systems to make the cost of doing business less for entrepreneurs and small businesses, identity management platforms to verify identity, or even making sure that there's greater access to capital for entrepreneurs that are not just leveraging emerging technologies like blockchain, but emerging industries like cannabis, right? So I'm excited in terms of what she means, because we know that Kamala Harris comes from Silicon Valley. She's a young presidential candidate, will be a very young technological president. I'm encouraged that within this opportunity economy is the opportunity for innovation to play a role, but for us to expand access.
Right. So looking ahead to 2025, how do you think the policy landscape will shift?
Oh, wow. Right. There's a lot of speculation, right? As a Democrat that has been working in this space for a whole long time, I've been working with the Black Caucus, Hispanic Caucus, Asian Pacific American Caucus. They've been focused on inclusion. And what I've been trying to tell the industry is we have to wait, right? So for Vice President Harris or even for Tim Walz, crypto hasn't been a big part of their purview. It doesn't mean that it won't be.
Right.
But right now, we are here in Chicago so that they can officially get the nomination. We know that we already did the official paperwork and they have enough of the delegates to, but this ceremony is important, right? I anticipate that it will be after convention that they'll put in a tech policy team that will look at AI and the intersectionality with blockchain. The economic team will start looking at economic opportunity when it comes to access to capital, when it comes to what are these new retail investors and households that are interacting with this space. So I think we have some time to give this campaign, but I do think that the Harris-Walz campaign has heard the industry, that they know we want Web3 and DeFi to be part of the policy agenda. They're going to determine how that is. Right. But for me, my biggest concern is inclusion and capital formation, because we know that that's not the biggest priority for the industry so far, right, but it's something we've been advocating for. So that has to be part of the calculation. So I'd rather make sure we move forward in a place where that is not an aside, that is not something we do later. Now, in terms of the outlook for 2025, we know there's going to be a reset regardless of who's in the White House, right? Policy is going to shift from the way President Biden's administration has addressed crypto. But also, this is a new landscape for crypto policy. We've never had so many institutional players in this space. When you look at BlackRock, right? When you look at what Fidelity has built, and they've built it from the lens of being crypto native. But when you look at so many of the other traditional financial institutions coming into the space, that's a different play as well. Even the OCC that has been resistant to banks getting in crypto has signaled that tokenization is a place where they're willing to talk to banks about. So I think going to 2025 is not just who's in the White House. It's not who controls the Senate and who controls the House. It will also be some of these new traditional institutional players. But I'm excited. Here we are 16 years later. The space is growing. But for me, regardless of how it grows, inclusion. But there's so much talk about consumer protection, but consumer protection means let's keep people out, right? It's not for you, it's for them. 100%. And that is how we keep people down. I need the conversations around consumer protection to be balanced with capital formation and financial inclusion. And that is all about access to capital, workforce training, financial and digital education. That is about looking closely at the new retail investors, no longer a wealthy white male. They're younger, they're browner. How do we create opportunities for them? So we have a lot of work to do.
And that's why we're here on the ground to make sure that they know these stats that we were just privy to at our event yesterday. And it's also fascinating that Mark Cuban announced, Harris reached out to me. So they're doing the work. Like, they understand that it is a big issue for all of us.
I've been working in crypto for 6 years. I don't know how long Mark Cuban has been in crypto, but he doesn't speak for the industry. And I don't want celebrities speaking for us. I need Vice President Harris, candidate Harris, to know that there are Black and Latino leaders, indigenous leaders who have been organizing, who've built community. This $2 trillion market would not even be here without us. So I'm tired of us being eclipsed by celebrities who are new to the game. We are at a point where we need those signals to come from us. We would have loved to have had her in Martha's Vineyard talking to Black leaders. It would have been great to have her at Ola Metaverso talking to leaders.
For sure.
That's where we need to be, because the days when, oh my God, all of a sudden we're going to be engaging Mark Cuban. Well, Mark Cuban hasn't spoken to us about what our priorities are. I know he talks to some of the wealthiest segments of crypto. So we have to change that dynamic. Decentralization means that we no longer eclipse or dismiss the largest segments of the organizing groups that have made this industry what it is.
You're 1,000% correct, because one of the things that I asked our community, and as we've talked on many episodes, that we are the biggest population that's utilizing this technology, but mainstream media does not cover that. So one thing I asked the community, I was like, listen, I'm going to be at the DNC. What kind of questions in the space and Web3 DeFi? One of the main questions from someone I really, really, really respect, he said, ask them what constitutes as an advisor in the space. And that speaks to exactly what you were saying. Like, I don't know how long Mark Cuban's been in this space, but also it doesn't matter because he doesn't talk for us, right? So you're exactly right. That's why we're here. And that's why we need to spread the word, because we need to make sure that we are telling our own stories. We're the ones on the ground. We're the ones that are connecting. We're the ones building and creating and utilizing this technology for sure.
Immediately after Biden stepped aside and Kamala Harris stepped in as the candidate, we hosted a virtual meeting of diverse Black Web3 and DeFi leaders. We came together not just to support the Harris campaign, more importantly, to outline what are the policies we need to make sure there's economic opportunity in this space.
Right.
And we're following that up with an open letter that we're finalizing that we will be sending to her campaign in September.
Awesome.
And one of the biggest asks in that open letter will be that the campaign has to meet with Black and Latino leaders.
Has to.
By September, they'll have their tech policy team and they'll have their economic team. And they're meeting with all of these wealthy executives, right? We are not hiding. We have built strong communities.
Yeah.
We're doing amazing things in this space. So we need this campaign. We need this ticket, Harris and Walls, to actually come directly to us, to engage us. Yeah. And that is not a big ask. That is a low bar.
Yeah.
Yes. And especially, I am a Howard alum. I am an AKA.
Excuse.
You know what?
Yeah.
If a fellow bison is going to go to the White House, she cannot leave our voices out of the conversation.
Exactly. No, that is correct. So speaking of the convention and we're here, what's a fun fact, Cleve, about this convention so far?
Well, as you know, we wanted Butterscotch Media to represent you. You know, you host our podcast. I write our weekly tip sheet, the newsletter. Ashlyn is our CTO. We've built our own platform where we actually will be producing our own newsletters. And so we wanted to be official. So as you know, we applied for credentials and we, thank God, the Biden team expanded credentialing to creators. So we were able to get creator credentials. And so we've been navigating that space, right? So our goal has been to get to the caucus meetings where the Black Caucus, Hispanic Caucus, Native Caucus are meeting. Today we had some, it was a little challenge getting into the caucuses. Tomorrow we're on track to be at the Women's Caucus where Senator Gillibrand, who's a big crypto proponent and advocate, will be. We've been meeting with members of Congress as we're navigating the convention and connecting with them, asking them about their thoughts about crypto.
Right.
And also sharing live information that we're getting from the campaign so that folks are actually able to not just learn about the conventions, but about the pieces that actually matter to people in Web3 and DeFi. Right? So it's been great to be, credentialed, but more importantly, it's been great to actually connect with, they've created community for the various creators. So we're on a lot of chats and events with other creators. So it's great to see, digital media is so powerful today, right? Yes. I was sharing that there's criticism of Kamala Harris right now that she hasn't done sit-down interviews with the media. And it's because they're no longer that relevant.
Right.
Sorry, big anchors. But this campaign is taking their conversation directly to the people. And that's who shows up large in these big rallies. That's who shows up in these smaller groups. I was so excited to see that she's doing debate prep at Howard HU. So it's so important. I think our fun fact is just Butterscotch Media being a part of the convention and having access to the content, to surrogates to be able to report out and share some of this information. But I know for you, it's, again, this is my fourth for your first one. So I know it's been an interesting journey because we're in one of the hotels that's for journalists and we are like boxed in.
We're in like the safe zone because we're right by McCormick. But it's fascinating because It's like any other convention, just with extra security. But the opportunities that we have, we might schedule some things because we are credential creators, but we can run into people like you did earlier today. You just have to be open and willing to just go on the fly. So because we're here, I got invited to the Latina Leaders Luncheon tomorrow, and I'm excited to see and have these conversations with senators and Congress people about what are their thoughts, if they're even thinking about it, if it's even a thought, and for them to know, like, listen, we just got a briefing of these stats, and I can bring this to you. So what are we talking about, and what are your thoughts, and what's the future? So it's exciting times.
No, I think it's great that you're going to be at the Latino Leaders Luncheon. Obviously, Maria Teresa Kumar will be there. The work that she's doing on Voto Latino is so amazing.
Yes.
But just, again, for the Democratic Party, the Latino vote, the Black vote, the women vote are very critical. And we don't want to forget about the indigenous votes. Indigenous communities, they have a robust footprint across Web3 and DeFi, but also they're very critical to the Democratic base. When you look at the native members of Congress, so many of them are even engaged in crypto because indigenous communities are actively participating in this space. So it's an exciting time, and it's great to be here when the crypto conversation is really opening up from a policy perspective.
Yeah, no, definitely.
I want to thank you for being host of the Get Down, because these conversations are so important, and you're such a professional, and being able to not just connect with folks around what are the issues, but also getting to the meat of their journey, right? Their story, which is critical, because I think that's what our audience want, right? They want to learn about how people got into crypto, what they're doing in crypto, but they also want you to humanize the story as well.
Well, thank you for having me. And also, as we always say, we build differently. We're not just about self, we're about building for the community and impact for our community. So thank you for this conversation today. Super excited. Make sure to go to all of our socials, because we're going to be putting out content on your favorite social media. We also have some wrap-up videos towards the end. So I just want to say special thanks to the Butterscotch Kings and Queens out there for checking in and being part of this conversation. And make sure to check out all of the previous episodes, including who you mentioned, Tiffany. We did the event in Martha's Vineyard. She's a couple of episodes ago. She's fantastic.
Yeah.
So make sure to go to all the platforms and see all of the previous episodes. And until next time.